The way I see it is there's kind of two high-level scenarios here. Do you guys know what those are? You know what I'm talking about?
For keyword strategy?
For picking out, like, in terms of how it is going to happen in a vacuum, like what would be kind of the two, like, very high-level situations.
Like, when you check out the URL, inspect the URL first?
No, you got an existing client. And you got a new client. Does that make sense to you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's going to kind of, those two scenarios are going to determine the path forward of the actual process. That's kind of about as far as I've gotten in my head about how to think of it at a high level. This one is the more common of the two, obviously, because, well, at least in terms of what I might need help from you guys on, I would say this is obviously the more common of the two situations. This one, the new scenario is more of like, yeah, it's like, as is the case with any new client, like we'd want senior level eyes on it, as many as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think that just makes the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
The way that I had this structured in my training modules was kind of the same way. It just wasn't called this. It's like basic and advanced, or like there's like shortcut methods for this basically. But let's see if I can just outline the process quick. Well, I'm just going to ask you guys, since you're both, well, at least you're more familiar with this process. So for this particular scenario, what would be kind of like step one, do you think?
Google's Google Keyword Planner.
Well, this exists already. So before you even get to that,
Look at
before
the
you actually
existing.
dive in, yeah.
Look at the existing
So we wanna-
keyword and landing page list.
AWR.
Yeah, so spreadsheet. Strategy spreadsheet.
I like how it's all in one place now too.
Yeah,
It's
my
super
old
helpful.
my old training stuff has Airtable. It has like
Link building status sheet.
yeah, I want to kind of bring this in. I want to put focus on the spreadsheet because I think that's going to be the process for now. I think that's the simplest thing moving forward instead of trying to look at Airtable, trying to look at the PureLink, whatever,
Yeah,
tool.
client portal.
link portal. So the first thing I want to do is just kind of see what's going on already. And then the second thing after that would be just kind of diving in, right? So like do is my brain is not working. Analysis and research. I'm just going to keep firing questions at you guys because I feel like you've had, in some capacity, have had some exposure to this. So instead of just me talking up here, it'd probably be better to just ask.
Interactive.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But like, in a nutshell, this is kind of step two. Just jump into it. But in that step two, where would be the best place to start in that? Like you've already kind of looked at the land. You already kind of looked at what was, and now you kind of have to figure out, does that make sense moving forward? Do we need to change it? What do we need to change?
When you go into AWR and like actual see the keyword rankings of where they are right now and see if anything's slipping and look for opportunities just out of the keyword research.
What else?
You know, of course, the third party services too, like Ahrefs, and you know, seeing how the referring domains are going into the, you know, the URLs.
Not yet. But what would kind of go hand in hand? AWR is essentially a keyword visibility / performance tracking
GA.
tool. So
That's
the next closest thing is either that, or even before you even get to that, you might want to try poking around in Search Console. So I would go.
So would you go Search Console then GA?
These are all primarily designed for like organic keyword research. So like you should probably try to consider all three of these if you can.
Mm-hmm.
These two are going to be more. These two are going to give you more info than AWR, because AWR is limited to what
We have in there.
we have in there.
No.
And this is everything and anything that, like, you can punch in a landing page in GSC and you can see all the keywords that rank for it. SEMrush, kind of the same thing, only it's their database, not Google's database. So I would actually say that this is probably your best resource. It's probably your strongest resource. In terms of what might come out of you looking at those three things, the impact of what would come out of it would be minimal. Like, probably not. You probably wouldn't negatively impact what your decision would be at the end of the day too much if you didn't, if you went like with just SEMrush and not Search Console.
Makes sense.
So yeah, you want to get an idea of performance there. And then, so let me think here. I don't want to write anything yet because there's obviously a lot that goes on in this area here. So, what would be, like, you're looking at these things. First, well, yeah, we're looking at these things, but like, what are we looking at in here? We're looking at keywords, landing pages. And then even more granularly, what might we want to look at specifically in there? Anything, this is just a hypothetical, I'm not like putting you guys on the spot. Like, is there anything more granularly like we want to think about when we're looking at that stuff? Like branded versus non-branded, performance, keyword cannibalization and competition, like those are probably a bunch of things we want to consider, right?
Absolutely.
So when you're looking at this, we want to consider let me just do this a little different. So yeah, even more granularly, we want to look at, I'm going to run out of room here. We Like we might want to look at branded versus non-branded traffic, right? Like let's take PAR for instance. They push heavy on a product page called Brink.
Mhm.
And it's really like we already have a page that kind of qualifies well for restaurant point of sale. We already have another page that qualifies well for restaurant or point of sale software. We have another page that qualifies well for point of sale hardware. Kitchen display systems, like we have all these pages, and then there's Brink. Like, it wasn't until we started digging through all this stuff that we really could say confidently what can Brink rank for that's non-branded. So
It brings a branded name, right?
Brink is the brand.
Yeah.
So when we put that into SEMrush or Search Console, we just filtered out non-branded to isolate, filtered out branded to isolate the non-branded, right? So get rid of keyword does not contain Brink or whatever and see what's left. That can kind of help us. That's just like a hypothetical, right? That's kind of how we arrived at Brink. Cloud POS was ranking according to SEMrush for the Brink page. So we went with Cloud POS that had some relatively high volume and a good cost per click.
Makes sense.
So let me let me just redo that. So yeah, so like those are some considerations that we want to think of. We want to think of branded versus non-branded. Like really, we're like, is the page that this is existing, is the page that we're building links to, or the page we're thinking about building links to, does it match the intent of the keyword that we're thinking of? And if not, are there other keywords that might be more closely aligned? And so on and so forth. But like these are all things that we would want to look at, like when kind of digging around in there. That would include the keyword volume too. Like that will impact your decision at the end of the day. Cost per click might also impact your decision, because if nobody's paying for it on the ad side, like a client like TempDev, they might say, here's a page on EPM reporting. Build links to it. So we might, this is hypothetical, we might go in to any of these tools, and I want to add a contingency too, because when we're looking at this stuff, I think it needs to be verified with you can kind of check yourself using Keyword Planner if you need like a quick keyword volume or something like that.
I use that a lot.
But like with TempDev, they might say EPM reporting and then build links to this page. And then we'll dig around in this during this process, and we might see that EPM reporting gets like 10 searches a month, but like nobody's paying for it on the ad side. We might also see that, what does that stand for? Enterprise ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning, I think it is, or no?
EPM?
Enterprise Practice Management,
Yes.
EPM. We might look at that full term and say, okay, Enterprise Practice Management and Reporting is another term that I see in there. That gets 20, 30 searches a month, but people are paying $14 for it on the ad side. If we think that page can match up with that other term, we might say, let's go with this other term instead. Because it has a little more keyword volume, has a little more cost per click, and the page still matches the intent. So like, yeah, we might rank for EPM reporting, but keep in mind, not a lot of people are searching for it. But here's the term that if we do rank for, we might get some traction for. So like, those are a couple hypothetical things that we might be looking for in there. And then, this is a big one, and I want to come back to this later on, but page has to make sense with the keyword. There's a few different types of keyword intent in general. There's directional. I think you guys probably have heard Kevin say this. There's directional or navigational. There's transactional, and there's informational queries. Navigational is like they typed in your brand, or they typed in that web address into Google. They knew exactly where they were going.
Mm-hmm.
Informational is point of sale software, point of sale. That's like an informational query. Like, likely they're not looking for software, they're just looking to know more about
To learn something about it.
And then finally, transactional would be point of sale software. They want to buy point of sale software or buy shoes or whatever. So that's got to match. This is a really big thing now, and I do want to come back to it. It's going to be part of the quiz. Competition among landing pages is a big thing, and it's always going to be one component of a bigger picture of why we might lose a client. We know firsthand we have multiple clients that have multiple pages that could conceivably rank for the same set of keywords. And the easiest way of just seeing the competition is likely Search Console for an existing client, because we can just punch in the page. We can filter to the page that we're looking at. Or, I'm sorry, we can filter the primary keyword of what we're trying to rank for, and then we can toggle to the page and look at historically all the different pages that have ranked for that keyword. Search Console will show us that if we just filter. And then if there's multiple pages, it's evidence to think that we might need to move on to something like an SEO map. Or
the keyword cannibalization is just
content recommendations, yeah. So, existing client, look at where we've been to see where we can go. Dive into the analysis and research, which is going to, for the most part, involve these tools. The two that kind of, and I'm sorry, this is kind of starting to look a little weird, but the two that are kind of, I'd say three, actually. Using abbreviations because I'm running out of room. The three that you're going to kind of want to bounce back. Besides these, the ones that you might want to do a couple side checks on will be the keyword planner, Google, because you might just, actually this should probably go down here. Google, because you just might want to verify keyword intent based on search results, and then the client website. Don't forget about the client website. There's a lot of good info on there without checking any tools. You just look at the site. And then step 3 is
implement.
Yeah, your plan. Your plan, basically. Plan and
start writing on the lower board.
Plan and implementation, which, as you guys know, is your keyword, your landing page,
distribution,
bingo, and quantity, whatever.
and quantity. Yeah.
Do you guys know before I move on that note, do you guys know the different distribution types or the
Broad,
anchor match
phrase,
types?
exact.
Yep. And I would actually, I've been thinking about this a little more, I would classify the natural and brand as other. and just have there be 4 types. Because it's kind of like sometimes we're writing and they're like, let's say I want April to come up with something like PAR Brink restaurant point of sale, cloud point of sale software or something like that. That would be a mix of brand and phrase, or brand and exact or something. And then it starts to get a little weird.
Yeah.
So I just say other, and if you want the brand in there, just put brand hyphen whatever. Or, yeah. The way, it's kind of weird the way the process is set up, because we're just electronically handing this over to the link team, where we should be having a discussion with them to say, or they should be looking at, they should just kind of make the determination, okay, if this is an other category, then I need to determine how much brand, if it should say the brand, or if it should say learn more, or click here, or whatever. I think they at that point should have to be making that determination, but we'll have to work through that.
So it's exact, phrase, brand, or other.
Other.
Okay.
If you really want to be you really honed in on what was going on, you really wanted to be specific, you can say like brand / phrase, like PAR's restaurant point of sale technology.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can say broad / brand, or broad.
Wait, so what is?
Or broad / other, which would be, or broad / natural, which would be learn more about PAR's point of sale technology for restaurants, or something like that.
Okay.
See, it's kind of weird the way that it's set up, which is why sometimes I have a distribution on there, and other times I just write exactly what I want it to say.
Yeah.
As long as you guys understand that, though, that's fine.
Yeah.
And then there's the new. And so our step 1 here, like for a new client, Patrick, as you mentioned earlier, step 1 for a new client would be
Checking out their webpage.
Yeah. Research. What's wrong with me today?
Dialysis.
Yeah. Pizza brain. Check out their website. Pretty much all this stuff, right? Website, keyword planner.
When in this step would we actually be adding their keywords into AWR? Like creating like their actual account in AWR and like starting putting their tracked keywords in there.
That would be probably part of step 2.
Okay.
These are all the tools you can use, because when we get a new client, you don't want to let them drive the account. What we really want to do is try to steer it and give our opinion on things before we get to that discovery call or kickoff call where we're like, hey, where do you want us to build to? Like, we should have a lot of this done already. So
like basically like should we have like our questionnaire out, like for a new client we should have our questionnaire asking like our pointed questions before we even start our research on everything?
Or around the same time, yeah.
Because I like to like get that questionnaire out, because like it asks a lot of important questions that like it'll help our research out. Learning what they want to rank for, what their goals are.
Yeah, before, just around the same time, so that you can kind of meet and be prepared to talk through whatever. So third-party tools, am I missing any? Yeah, we want Ahref.
Do you use Majestic at all?
I was missing Ahref over here.
Do you use Majestic at all, Eric?
You can. I typically don't, because Ahrefs is a little bit easier to
Understand.
It's a little more user-friendly. At the end of the day, the right answer to that question is you should use both. You should combine data into one spreadsheet and do a formula to calculate your own exact match percentage. That's the right answer. but usually you can get a pretty good idea of it just using Ahrefs. I want to come back to this quick before we get back into this because I forgot this part of it. This is a big component of it, but when you're doing all this, and just before you get to your plan, let's say you got, okay, I want to build links to PAR's point of sale software page for restaurant point of sale. I want to build 2 of them. I want to build one link to Brink that says cloud point of sale or learn more or whatever. And then I want to build 3 to the drive-through. One of them is drive-through equipment, one of them is drive-through systems, the other one is drive-through headsets. Let's say that's our plan. You've already done all this, you're pretty confident like these categories could use more links. That they're the right categories according to all these different considerations, volume, CPC, all that. You got one more check. It's a huge check you got to do, especially if you have exact match. Well, in any case, you should just generally speak. What?
Junie Bear.
There's one big check you got to do, and that's your anchor text. You know what I'm talking about when I refer to that, right? Anchor text.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're trying to build to a page like restaurant point of sale, my battery's running low. If we're trying to build to a page like restaurant point of sale, we want to look at all the links that exist to it now. What do they say? How much of that thing do they say? And is there any chance that if we do more of that thing, could we be raising any red flags? Like, could we make it obvious to Google that we're building links? So what we're really looking at is like if you came up with that PAR strategy that I just said, and we would want to go into Ahrefs and make sure that we don't have a million links that point to the drive-through page that already say drive-through systems. If more than 20% of our links say exactly drive-through systems to the drive-through page, we might want to pull back on that or do something different like learn more or see click here or something like that. I forgot that step. So that would be part of this new research to determine that up front. Step 2, new client. Would be to have like a loose plan based on however many links we're building for them. Technically, we should be determining how many links we should be building for them based on the competition. That's kind of like a whole nother process. But we should have a kind of a loose idea. If it's 10 links, we should have a loose idea of what those links might be based on all this research. And then step 3 would just be step 3 would be to sync with the client. Step 4 would be to solidify the plan. That's basically it. I'm not going to go any farther on this today because there's videos and I have a quiz and stuff for you guys. And I think just going any deeper into this right now might be too much, and especially with that video. So I think that's it for now. Just note that solidify plan means that for you guys, it's going into a spreadsheet, and then for fun, it's going into, what's it called, the link tool?
Oh.
Airtable.
Airtable,
Client
client portal.
portal. Linker tool.
Does Colin need it to go into the link tool for any, like, is there a purpose to that?
I stopped
I'm
asking.
just curious.
Yeah, I know,